The masses believe what they see, even if it's an illusion. Sigmund Freud. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. We are born with a thirst for freedom. As children, we run barefoot, laugh without reason, and dream without limits. But slowly, without even noticing, we step into a golden cage. A cage made not of iron or walls, but of comfort, rules, and invisible scripts. The system hands us small joys. Likes on social media, the soft glow of a screen, the next episode in a series that never ends. And we take them, gladly, because they soothe us. We tell ourselves we are free because we can choose the color of our shoes, the brand of our phone, or the next vacation spot. But the truth is, we are only choosing between the cages they built for us. The most dangerous prison is the one you cannot see. Modern life wraps us in layers of entertainment, convenience, and endless distraction. News feeds, music streaming, endless scrolling, all designed to keep our minds occupied, our hands busy, and our hearts numb. Picture a man lying on his couch, phone in hand, scrolling for hours. He laughs at videos, shakes his head at the news, maybe sends a comment here and there. He feels informed, connected, entertained. But beneath the surface, his soul is shrinking. He has become a spectator of life, not its creator. Society whispers to us from every corner, stay comfortable, stay distracted, stay busy. It sells us the idea that happiness is the absence of discomfort, that fulfillment comes from consumption, that success is measured by applause, followers, numbers on a screen. But in chasing these things, we forget the raw, wild aliveness that once burned in us. We exchange it for dopamine hits, for the safety of routine, for the applause of strangers. And the system smiles, because a person caught in comfort is a person easy to control. There's a reason discomfort terrifies us. When the screen goes dark, when the music stops, when the crowd leaves, we meet ourselves. And for many, that is unbearable. So we dive back into noise, into light, into anything that spares us from facing the silence within. Yet silence is where the real work begins, where the masks crack, the illusions fade, and the raw self emerges. But the system cannot profit from your raw self. It can only profit from your insecurities, your cravings, your constant need for more. The biggest lie society tells is that you are in control, that you are the master of your life. But as long as your desires are manufactured, as long as your time is stolen by algorithms, as long as your attention is bought and sold, you are not free. Freedom does not come from having endless choices. It comes from breaking the game entirely, from stepping outside the endless scroll, the constant consumption, the addiction to being seen. It comes from daring to be still in a world that fears silence. The golden cage is beautiful. It shines, it entertains, it distracts, but it is still a cage. And the moment you see it for what it is, something inside you stirs. A quiet rebellion, a flicker of memory, of who you were before they told you who to be. The greatest trick of modern society is not control by force, but control by pleasure. Keep them entertained, keep them sedated, and they will never seek the door that has been open all along. At the end of the day, the most dangerous chains are the ones we wear with pride, the ones we show off on social media, the ones we call success, progress, connection, the ones that tighten softly around our necks as we smile for the camera. And here is the truth that shatters the illusion. The system does not fear your anger. It fears your awakening, because a person awake cannot be owned. We live not in a world of possibilities, but in a world of imposed desires. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, voices whisper what to want, what to chase, who to be. We think we are making choices, but the script has already been written. Buy this, watch this, wear this, become this. They dress manipulation as suggestion, so soft you hardly notice the pressure. But make no mistake, the weight is there, and it's crushing. Even rebellion has been packaged and sold. Want to feel unique? There's a brand for that. Want to feel free? There's a lifestyle subscription for that. They sell the feeling of freedom, the taste of it, but never the real thing. Everywhere you look, they feed you with dreams, not your own. A new car, a slimmer body, a bigger following, a shinier life. And you chase them, not because you need them, but because you've been told you do. The paradox is brutal. Everyone is trying so hard to stand out, and yet everyone ends up looking the same. Different clothes, same hunger. Different phones, same emptiness. Different goals, same exhaustion. The system thrives on sameness disguised as individuality. It whispers that you are special, all while leading you down the same well-worn path as everyone else. And we walk that path willingly, smiling, posting, consuming. Take a step back and look. Look at the faces glued to their screens, the bodies locked into routines, the minds fed with curated realities. There is no force, no chains, no prison bars, only invisible strings, and they pull hard. The strongest control comes without visible chains. When you believe you are free while your mind is owned, you have no reason to rebel. Why break the rules when you think you're the one making them? But underneath it all, there's a quiet ache, a faint restlessness, a part of you that knows something is off, that no amount of likes, no perfect body, no luxurious escape will fill the hole they've carved in you. They keep you running in circles, want more, buy more, be more, and in the chaos, you forget to stop. You forget to ask why you are chasing any of it at all, but the system never forgets. It feeds on your forgetting. They sell you dreams, then sell you the cure for the emptiness those dreams leave behind. It's a cycle, polished and profitable, and breaking it requires more than awareness. It requires war. A war against the soft pull of the familiar, against the seductive voice that says, just one more scroll, one more episode, one more hit of pleasure. It's a war waged in silence, in the privacy of your own mind. And here's the dangerous truth. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. The billboards scream at you, the headlines bait you, the ads track you. And you know it's all a game. That is where the fight begins. You will be told you are paranoid, that you are overthinking, that you should relax, enjoy, go with the flow. But the flow is poison. The flow is control. The flow is the river that drowns the ones who dare to stop swimming. The ones who stop, who sit quietly, who refuse to be entertained to death. They terrify the system, because they cannot be sold an escape when they no longer want to run. This is not a call for rebellion with fists in the air. This is a quieter revolution, one that happens when you choose stillness over noise, depth over distraction, truth over comfort. When you look at the glossy lie and say, no more. When you turn off the noise and listen to the uncomfortable silence within. When you decide to want less, need less, chase less, you become untouchable. And the system fears what it cannot touch. So the next time you reach for the next dopamine hit, remember, the strings are there. They wrap around your mind, not your body. And cutting them starts with one decision: to want your own life back. Because the cage you see is only half the prison. The other half is the part of you that clings to it. And the greatest freedom is not walking away from the cage. It's wanting nothing from it at all. Comfort is the ultimate trap. The system does not need to chain you, punish you, or threaten you. It only needs to keep you satisfied, entertained, and slightly numb. Comfort is not just soft couches and fast food. It's mental ease. It's scrolling instead of thinking. It's watching instead of doing. It's escaping into someone else's life so you never have to face your own. They know you better than you know yourself. They know when you're restless, when you're lonely, when you're bored. And they are always ready with the fix. Music to drown out the silence. Shows to kill the night. Porn to fake intimacy. Games to simulate achievement. Little by little, your edge softens. The fire in your chest dims. And you tell yourself, this is peace. This is rest. This is life. But deep down, you know, this is sedation. A man or woman who lives only for comfort is a walking ghost. They stop searching, stop risking, stop growing. They become easier to control because their biggest fear is losing the comfort they've wrapped themselves in. The system wants you right there, half awake, half alive, endlessly entertained, but never fulfilled. It wants you chasing soft pleasures, so you never chase hard truths. Pain used to be a teacher. Now it's treated like a malfunction. Feeling lonely? Here's an app. Feeling anxious? Here's a playlist. Feeling bored? Here's endless distraction. But the pain was never the enemy. It was the door. The door to growth, the door to strength, the door to waking up. But they built a world where you never have to open it. And most will spend their lives circling the house, never knowing there was another room inside them, waiting to be discovered. Picture a person who has just lost something, a love, a dream, a version of themselves. In that moment of rawness, they stand on the edge of something real. But before they can step into it, the world rushes in with comfort. A drink, a movie, a scroll, a purchase, and the moment is gone. We have been trained to run from discomfort, to patch every crack, to numb every ache. But what we run from holds the key to everything we hunger for. There is a kind of strength that comes only from walking through fire, a kind of peace that comes only from facing storms, a kind of freedom that is born in the heart of discomfort. But the system has convinced us that discomfort is failure, that struggle is weakness, that if we are hurting, something is wrong. And so, we never stay in the fire long enough to be transformed. The ones who choose discomfort, who sit with their own pain without reaching for the nearest escape, they are the ones who wake up. Imagine what would happen if you stopped filling every silence, if you stopped escaping every uncomfortable moment, if you let yourself feel the full weight of your life. It would be terrifying, it would be liberating, it would change everything. The world is a master of numbing, but numbness is not peace. It is the absence of life. And you were not born to be numb. You were born to burn with longing, with rage, with purpose, with love, to let life carve you open and shape you into something real. So the next time you feel the ache, the loneliness, the boredom, stay with it. Let it teach you, shape you, break you open. Because the life you want is on the other side of everything you're trying to avoid. The system can only control those who run from themselves. But once you stop running, once you face your own darkness, you become ungovernable. This is not about rejecting comfort forever. It's about seeing it for what it is. A tool, not a home. A place to rest, not a place to live. Because comfort is sweet, but it is also a cage, and the door is always open, but only if you dare to walk through the fire. Freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to stand inside it without breaking. The moment you stop needing constant pleasure, constant distraction, constant sedation, you become dangerous. Because a person who no longer fears discomfort is a person the system cannot buy, cannot bribe, cannot break. And that is where real life begins. Control without chains is the masterpiece of this age. They no longer need to lock you in a cell or silence you with force. They just flood you with noise, flood you with options, flood you with comfort until you stop noticing the walls around you. This is the art of modern control. Make you love the cage. The tools are everywhere. Social media feeds you curated lives, filtered happiness, endless comparison. You look, you scroll, you compare, you ache, and you go back for more. Music loops in your ears, shaping your mood without you even noticing. Television tells you what matters, what's trending, what deserves your outrage. Porn offers you intimacy without connection, touch without trust, release without meaning. It's not just about what you consume, it's about what it consumes in you. Day by day, piece by piece, it eats your time, your focus, your hunger for something real. It turns wild hearts into tame pets, rebels into spectators, dreamers into consumers. The genius of this system is that it doesn't force you to obey. It makes you want to obey. It makes you crave the next hit of pleasure, the next comfort, the next escape. And while you chase it, you forget you were born for something more. You were not made for constant sedation. You were not made for small pleasures and big emptiness. You were not made to live and die scrolling. But here's the trick. Every time you try to break free, they are ready. Feeling restless? There's a new series. Feeling unsatisfied? There's a new product. Feeling anxious? There's a new app. They are ready because they have mapped you. They know your desires better than you do. They've studied your triggers, your weaknesses, your patterns, and they have built a world that keeps you spinning, searching, spending, scrolling. This is not just about capitalism or media or marketing. This is about the most profound theft, the theft of your inner life. Because when your inner world is hijacked, when your thoughts are no longer your own, when your attention is constantly being pulled and sold, you lose the one thing that makes you human, the capacity to choose who you are. Imagine a generation raised not on books, not on art, not on deep connection, but on algorithms. Imagine minds shaped not by reflection, but by reaction. Imagine hearts trained not in patience, but in instant gratification. You don't have to imagine it. You are living in it. But inside this storm, inside this system, there is still a way out. It starts when you notice. When you watch yourself reaching for the next distraction and you stop. When you feel the itch to escape and you sit in it instead. When you hear the whisper that says, "You need this," and you answer, "No, I don't." That is the first crack in the wall. That is the first spark of rebellion. And from there, everything changes. You start to hear the silence under the noise. You start to feel the hunger under the habit. You start to remember the person you were before they told you who to be. The system will push back. It will call you strange, angry, lost. It will offer you another fix, another distraction, another bandage. But each time you say no, you get stronger. Each time you resist, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Until one day, you stand in the middle of the chaos, and you are unshaken. You watch the flashing lights, the screaming headlines, the endless scroll, and you feel nothing but clarity. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. And here's the truth. They hope you never learn. You are allowed to unplug. You are allowed to turn away. You are allowed to want something slower, deeper, quieter. You are allowed to remember you are not a product, not a brand, not a bundle of data points. You are a human being. The system thrives on your forgetting, but the moment you remember, the moment you wake up, the spell breaks. And when it breaks, you see the world as it is, and yourself as you are. That is the beginning of real freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to no longer want what they sell. To walk through the world, untangled, unhooked, unbought. To carry your own mind, your own heart, your own hunger. Clean, fierce, alive. That is the kind of freedom they cannot touch. There is a quiet moment that comes when the noise fades, when the screens go dark, when the notifications stop, when the world outside finally grows still. That is when it happens. The meeting with yourself. And for many, it is unbearable. We have been trained to fear this moment, to fill it, numb it, escape it at any cost. Because in that silence, the truth waits, and the truth has sharp teeth. The truth is that most people do not know who they are without the world telling them. Without the scrolling, the consuming, the reacting, the pretending. They do not know what they believe, what they want, what they love, only what they've been fed. This is why the system keeps you busy, because an empty room is dangerous. An unplugged mind is a threat. A heart in silence can hear things the world tries to drown out. Loneliness has been painted as failure, as proof that something is wrong with you. But it is in loneliness that you meet the parts of yourself you've buried under noise. Pain has been painted as weakness, as a problem to solve. But pain is often the doorway to the most honest parts of you. There is no awakening without first walking through these rooms. There is no strength without first standing naked in the face of your own discomfort. Picture someone who has turned everything off: the television, the phone, the music, the endless chatter. Picture them sitting there, alone, raw. First comes the itch, the pull to reach for the phone, the craving for something, anything, to fill the space. Then comes the ache, the discomfort, the restlessness, the thoughts that rush in like a flood. But if they stay, if they resist the urge to run, something shifts. Beneath the ache, there is a kind of peace. A peace not dependent on noise or validation or control. A peace that rises from the simple fact of being alive, of existing fully, even in discomfort. Most people will never touch this peace, not because it is rare, but because it is hidden behind everything they have been taught to avoid. We are a generation terrified of stillness, terrified of facing our own minds, our own hearts, our own shadows. And so, we keep moving, consuming, performing, all to avoid the one thing that could set us free. The system does not fear your productivity. It does not fear your ambition. It does not fear your rebellion, so long as it is loud and chaotic and easily contained. What it fears is your stillness. Because a still mind sees clearly. A still heart loves deeply. A still human remembers what matters. And a person who remembers what matters is a person the system cannot control. So here is the quiet revolution. Sit with yourself. Do not run from the ache. Do not drown it in distraction. Do not soften it with empty pleasures. Let it burn. Let it break you open. Let it teach you who you are when the world falls away. In that place, you will meet the version of yourself that is untamed, unbranded, unbroken. The version of yourself they could never touch. And from that meeting, something new will rise. A kind of strength that does not shout, but simply stands. A kind of freedom that does not demand, but simply is. A kind of power that is not given, but claimed. This is the power the system fears. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to belong fully to yourself. Imagine walking through the world with nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to chase. Imagine moving through noise without needing to be part of it. Imagine choosing when to speak, when to act, when to engage, and doing so from a place of clarity, not compulsion. That is the fruit of stillness. That is the reward of facing your own pain. But it begins with a choice to stop running, a choice to sit in the fire and let it refine you, a choice to stand still while the world spins madly around you. Because the ones who can stand still are the ones who change everything. They are the ones who see through the lie, the ones who refuse to be bought, the ones who remind the rest of us that we were never meant to live like this, chasing, consuming, collapsing under the weight of things that do not matter. So stay when it hurts, stay when it's quiet, stay when everything in you says to run. Because on the other side of that staying is the life you have been searching for. There is a moment when the old self cracks, when the masks slip, when the roles dissolve, when the noise fades. And in that raw space, you stand face to face with your own power. But this power is not the kind you were taught to chase. It's not built on dominance or control or applause. It's not loud, not flashy, not hungry for attention. It's the quiet strength of someone who knows they can walk away, the deep calm of someone who knows they can stay, the unshakable center of someone who no longer needs permission to be who they are. This is the moment of awakening. It does not look like fireworks or thunder or some dramatic transformation. It looks like a man sitting alone and smiling. It looks like a woman walking away from a life that no longer fits. It looks like someone standing in the middle of chaos and choosing peace over panic. When you awaken, you don't become superhuman. You become deeply, fiercely human, alive in a way that no screen or substance or achievement can imitate. You begin to see the games for what they are. The endless race for status, for beauty, for wealth, for followers. All of it a smokescreen. And behind it, the simple truth. None of it can touch what matters most. You stop measuring your worth in numbers. You stop handing your time and energy to things that drain you. You stop trying to outrun yourself. Instead, you turn inward. You tend to the roots. You choose depth over surface, meaning over noise, truth over comfort. And the world will notice. Not because you are louder, but because you are clearer. Not because you are busier, but because you are focused. Not because you are winning the game, but because you have walked off the field. The system thrives on people who are lost in the race. People who need to prove, to chase, to conquer. But the moment you step back, the moment you refuse to play, you become untouchable. Freedom is not the absence of pain or struggle or conflict. Freedom is the ability to meet all of it without losing yourself. It is the ability to stand in discomfort without collapsing, to face loss without breaking, to move through fear without shrinking. And this freedom is available to anyone, but it costs everything you were told to value. You will have to let go of the need to be liked, the need to fit in, the need to succeed on their terms. You will have to trade certainty for curiosity, control for surrender, applause for solitude, but in return, you get yourself back. Not the self they sold you, not the self you built to survive, but the self that was always waiting beneath the noise. The child who dreamed without limits, the soul that loved without fear, the mind that wandered without shame. This is the rebirth the system fears most, not because you become dangerous to others, but because you become useless to it. You stop buying what it sells. You stop needing what it offers. You stop fueling the machine. And from that place, you become a mirror. A reminder to others that they too can wake up, that they too can step off the wheel, that they too can belong to themselves. This is how the world changes, not through mass movements or grand revolutions, but through quiet awakenings in ordinary lives. One person at a time, remembering. One person at a time, returning. One person at a time, reclaiming what was always theirs. So here you are, at the edge. You can turn back, plug back in, drown it all out. Or you can step forward into the unknown, into the fire, into the life that is waiting for you. It will not be easy. It will not be smooth. It will not be without pain. But it will be real. And in the end, real is all that matters. Awakening is not a finish line. It is not some shining moment after which life becomes perfect and you walk untouched by pain or doubt. Awakening is a path, a way of moving through the world with eyes open, heart exposed, and feet firmly on the ground. It begins when you realize that everything you were taught to chase was a distraction, that the money, the fame, the beauty, the approval, all of it was bait. It hooked you young and deep, trained you to measure your life in numbers and trophies and applause. And then comes the crack, the quiet moment when something in you whispers, there must be more. At first, you try to silence that voice. You drown it in work, in parties, in purchases, in plans. But it returns, stronger each time, until one day you cannot unhear it. You cannot pretend you are satisfied. That is where the real journey begins. The system does not want you on this journey. It will do everything to pull you back. It will seduce you with pleasure, distract you with noise, shame you with fear. It will whisper that you are foolish, reckless, ungrateful. It will parade 1,000 smiling faces to remind you what you are missing. But once you have tasted truth, the old life no longer fits. You begin to pull away from toxic people, empty conversations, false goals. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop explaining your choices. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. And in that space, you start to hear your own voice again. It is not always kind. It will ask you hard questions. It will strip away your defenses. It will show you the wounds you have buried. But it will also point you home. Home is not a place. It is the state of belonging fully to yourself. You begin to see that freedom was never about escape. It was never about running from pain or avoiding failure. It was about standing inside life as it is, messy, unpredictable, raw, and meeting it with an open heart. This is why so few choose this path, because it is easier to stay asleep. It is easier to numb, to distract, to perform. It is easier to keep chasing a version of happiness that never quite arrives. But easy has a price. Easy costs you your life. It costs you your fire, your truth, your aliveness. It keeps you in a half-life, a sleepwalk through days that blur together, never touching the depths of what you were born to be. And yet, the door is always open. You do not need permission. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need to wait for the right moment. You only need to say yes. Yes to the unknown. Yes to the discomfort. Yes to the beauty and terror of waking up. As you walk this path, you will lose things. Illusions, identities, attachments. You will lose the comfort of fitting in, the ease of following the script. You may lose relationships that were built on your old self. But what you gain is beyond measure. You gain the ability to stand in your own presence without flinching, to meet joy without clinging, pain without collapsing, to move through the world with eyes wide open, heart soft, and spirit unbroken. You become a lighthouse in a world lost in fog, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer afraid of the questions, not because you are invulnerable, but because you are no longer hiding. And here is the paradox. The system never wanted you to discover. The moment you stop needing their approval, you become truly free. The moment you stop chasing their rewards, you become truly powerful. The moment you remember who you are, you become truly untouchable. This is not the end of struggle. It is the end of self-betrayal. You will still face fear, doubt, and grief. You will still fall and fail and break, but you will no longer abandon yourself in the process. You will stand by your own side again and again, through every storm. This is the quiet revolution, the rebellion of a person who dares to be fully alive in a world that profits from their sleep. It begins with one choice: to pause, to listen, to feel, to stop running and turn toward the truth you have been avoiding, to meet yourself in the raw, trembling, beautiful place where transformation begins, and from that place, to rise, not above others, but above the lie, not into perfection, but into presence, not into some distant ideal, but into the full, messy, radiant truth of who you are. You will still walk among the noise, but you will no longer be owned by it. You will still hear the voices, but you will no longer be ruled by them. You will still move through the world, but the world will no longer move through you. This is the awakening, not a moment, not a destination, but a way of living that turns everything you touch into something real. And the world is starving for real. It is starving for people who have faced themselves and survived, for people who no longer play the game, for people who carry within them the fierce, quiet power of someone who has come home. This is your invitation. Not to escape the world, but to meet it with open eyes. Not to silence your pain, but to let it teach you. Not to become perfect, but to become true. Because in the end, the greatest rebellion is to live awake in a world that wants you asleep. And once you are awake, you can never go back. You have walked through the fire. You have faced the silence. You have seen the game for what it is. And now, there is no turning back. The world will keep spinning, the noise will keep rising, the machine will keep calling, but something in you has shifted. Something in you now knows. Freedom was never out there. It was always inside. You are no longer a product, no longer a pawn, no longer a shadow of yourself. You are here, alive, unmasked, untamed. And that, in a world built on sleep, is the most powerful act of all. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.